Yeah, how you doing, man? How's your weekend going?
I'm good. I'm good. Just recently moved to the beach. I was more in the city in Sydney, but
Yeah?
yeah, now just moved to the beach. So just getting a load of furniture and just settling in. I've just come back off a walk off the beach actually. So
Yeah?
yeah, loving it. Yeah,
So I guess you're liking Australia, right?
loving it. Well, yeah, I mean, pretty much. I was here for 3, 4 weeks, and then we went straight into lockdown. So for the majority of my time that I've spent here has been in lockdown. So just starting to travel and
Yeah.
that kind of stuff. But loving it so far. I mean, it's such a world away from living in London,
Oh
where
yeah, for
you've
sure.
got to queue to get onto your tube, queue to get out of the tube, um, line up to go towards work. It's just worlds apart. As I'm sure you know.
Yeah, for sure, man. Yeah. Do you want to explain to the chat who you are? I mean, I've talked to you about you quite a lot, but for those who don't know, do you want to say who you are and like how you got into the industry and stuff like that?
Yeah. Well, so my name is Zach, and in visual effects, I do texturing, look dev, and previously I've done some modeling. So I've been in the industry for around 5 years or so,
Wait,
and
really? Fuck,
I think
time's
it's
gone
about,
past.
yeah, 5 years or so. I think it's around 5 years. I started off at the University of Hertfordshire, which quite a few people in the industry now have come from there. Mike Wild has come from there. Josh Parks, who I'm sure other people would know as well, has come from Hertfordshire. I started off um, at doing a small little internship at a company called Rewind, which are based in like North London, St Albans. And I did a little bit of generalist stuff, a little bit of compositing, a little bit of modeling, just a variety of different stuff. And then I went back into my second year. And then in my second year summer, between second and third year, I managed to get a job at NPC to do some like stereo compositing. So not real compositing. It was kind of a little bit of paint, a little bit of roto, kind of matching the left and right eye for when a film is in 3D. And there needs a team to sort of like align some of the left and right plates. So there's a little bit of compositing work involved in that. So that's what I did in my second year summer.
Wait,
And
so you're
then
still studying at this time?
I was still studying at this time.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay, okay.
yes.
Jesus.
So it's kind of like an internship, but I didn't get the internship. And then a few weeks went by, and they said, even though we filled the internship, would you like to do this? We'll train you up and everything. So yeah, kind of did that and worked on. It's kind of like it's not a minor job because it needs to be done, but no one actually sees your work because
Yeah.
all you're working on is the stuff, the 3D, but when both plates get aligned. Um, so yeah, I did that, and then I went back into my third year, did a short film with a load of my friends,
Oh, everyone knows
and
that.
then
Is this the Bertie the elephant thing?
yes, yeah, yeah. So I did that with a team of people at Hertfordshire.
Yeah, so
That was really fun to work on. Um, yeah, so did that in my third year, and then graduated, and then started at ILM in London.
okay, so Ireland was your first job, like technically out of the industry, like out of school, you mean?
Yeah.
But you done like internships and stuff at other places.
Yes, yeah.
Sick.
And then I was doing a little bit of freelance in between all of that, like in my Easter holidays or my Christmases and things like that. So
Man,
kind of fresh, but not fresh.
yeah. And it's so funny because I still remember when you emailed me, like when you were studying, like saying, "Hey, should I apply for this job at ILM as a junior?" And I was thinking like, "Yeah, you should try, but ILM doesn't usually hire juniors." And then you got the job. I was like, "Fuck, all right, fair enough."
Hmm.
And then your first film was Star Wars. I was like, "This motherfucker!" Like, I really wanted to work on Star Wars, and like I couldn't. But your first film in the industry was Star Wars. I was like, "Damn, this dude got mad lucky." Do you?
Yeah, it was crazy. It was crazy. It was just timing. It was just,
Yeah, for
a
sure.
lot of these kind of things, it's the schedule, you're a person that they wanted and there's a job to do on a certain time, on a certain schedule. And that's kind of just how it worked out. And, I was really lucky in that sense.
Yeah, for sure. So how long were you on episode 8 for?
Well, I was on that for a while. I think it was roughly maybe a year or so.
Damn,
Yeah,
that's
a
quite a lot,
year.
man.
Yeah. So, that was quite lucky to sort of get on it quite early on in the show.
Yeah.
And my sort of ease into sort of a production life was quite nice. It wasn't too stressful at the start. I could really take my time. And, my leads and my supervisors sort of gave me some really, really small things, allowed me the time to grow and learn.
But then you got this sick bomber.
And then I got this. Yeah, that was really cool. That was amazing. That was one of the most fun things I've worked on.
Yeah, for sure. And then, so how long did you stay at ILM? Well, London for?
I think it was around 3 years or so.
Okay.
It was at 3 years, yeah. So at that time, I was kind of doing a little bit of modeling, texturing, and look dev. And kind of now I've specialized more in texturing and look dev. But when there's been times when there's been not too much work, especially during COVID,
Yeah.
because I've been able to do modeling, I've been able to sort of fill some of those gaps, which has been, it's really lucky that I've had that secondary skill to sort of keep myself busy and
So
in a job.
do you think students should be able to do all three?
Personally, I always had the mindset of whatever I want to specialize in, learn something either side of it. If you're
Yeah.
at the very start of the pipeline, obviously you can't do something before, but that's something that I always had consciously in my mind. One, to stay in a job, um, and two, to be able to have an appreciation and knowledge of what comes before you and after you. I always try to consciously do that, so it makes me a better artist.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, originally so when I was trying to get in the industry, it was more like if you just want to be a modeler, just show modeling. And but I've noticed kind of over the years, the level of students now has improved so much that like just being a modeler now, I don't know if is like good enough for a student, I mean. How do you feel about that?
Oh, for sure. I mean, the quality of students is crazy. I mean, all you need to do is just look at the rookies,
Oh yeah,
and
exactly.
the people are coming out not only industry standard. They could walk it. Some of the people could walk into a job.
Yeah, for
Um,
sure.
I've seen some people that have managed to get a job with just one amazing asset in their showreel,
Yeah,
and and they walked into a job. But yeah, the quality is getting so much higher. I think it's
yeah,
just as software is getting better and better. I remember when Arnold started to come, more popular. Not this was a few years before Autodesk bought it out, but it was the first renderer. Everyone was kind of using Mental Ray, and Mental Ray. Most of the battle was just trying to get something rendered,
yeah,
and then once you got it rendered, you can then work on trying to make something that looked nice and
yeah,
cool. And when Arnold came out, it was pretty much just put a couple of area lights in, you've got a model, and you've got a really amazing looking model, and it just brought the standard up from everyone.
yeah,
And so now
exactly.
you have this, all these different softwares coming out now. You have Substance, you have Keyshot, Arnold or whatever, and for the most part, you can get some really simple models in, and they look amazing. So it's
Yeah,
just brought the standard up.
especially with things like I noticed like with Keyshot, like you can just slap a model into a pre-made lighting setup and you're done. It's like to display a model by itself. Like I remember people used to do just ambient occlusion renders and like like that won't get you a job at this like anymore.
For sure, for
But
sure.
people do have questions. Someone's saying Substance or Mari.
It's a good question. It's a good
Because I
question.
know
I mean,
it's very trendy to use Substance now, but at work you guys will use Mario, right? In film.
We use Mari for everything. I mean, so I do use Substance. I use Substance Designer. So if I need
Okay,
to
but
make
not
tile
Painter.
levels, the only thing I use Painter for is just to bake out ambient occlusion and curvature maps. Really,
Yeah.
um, try to use it, and I can use it, but you might have these amazing edgeware presets or these amazing dirt masks or whatever, but if I ever use them, I just bring them out into Mari and start painting around and removing some areas and adding some areas. And by that point, you may as well just make it from scratch. That's kind of how I feel.
Yeah.
And also, you can look online and you can pretty much tell what software someone's used or what preset
Oh
someone has
yeah, for
used.
sure. Especially I think
Um,
because yeah, in Substance it's so easy to just throw in a preset and say you've like textured the asset. Where I guess in Mario you obviously have to do all the work yourself.
that's the thing, and also there's not that much training out there. I mean, there's far more training on Substance available now, and Substance has all of these amazing presets. You can get a model in, you can press a few buttons to bake all of the utility maps, drag a metal preset or a paint preset or whatever, and you've got a really amazing, looking model. Why would you do that? Why would you use Mario where you have to really, really work for everything? And you've got to know how to texture to get something looking good in Mari.
And isn't that like the main point of why you should know Mario? Because I hear people like I hear people like use Substance and they think they can texture, but like they don't actually understand how to texture. So I mean, aside from the fact that obviously you need to know Mario to get a job, but like learning Mario like teaches you how to properly texture, right? Like to understand what you're doing behind, like below the hood, sort of thing.
Literally. So, you imagine, okay, so Substance, it's this, I hate this Mari versus Substance
It's man,
debate.
it's gonna always exist, man. It's like Blender versus Maya right now. It's just always gonna be there.
I mean, look, the bottom line is if you get really nice looking textures, really amazing looking textures, you're going to get a job. But it's going beyond that dragging and dropping. But what was the question again? Sorry, I went on a little bit of a tangent.
What's the question? So it was just a general argument between using Mario versus Substance. But I guess like the general rule is, I'm not rule, but I guess the general thought is like you can get a job in the film industry without knowing Substance, but can you get a job within the film industry without knowing Mario?
It's all we do, it's all we use.
Yeah.
There are some companies, I think DNEG do have integrated Substance Painter into their pipeline. I'm sure a lot of small studios use it, and I don't know. I hate the Substance Mari debate because um, it's just focusing on the software, and for
Yep.
me, it's really not the software. It's all about, for me, texturing an asset is all about, like, it sounds really corny, but trying to tell a story
Yep.
and mixing photos and really painting where I want things and being really conscious about where you want things. Um, for me, Mari is the tool for the job because I can build everything from scratch. Every single layer, yes, I can build procedural, using ambient occlusion and curvature and all these things, but it's being conscious about, where I want things.
Yep.
Additionally, there is never a time where, and this is, in every stage of the pipeline in VFX, and I'm sure games as well, there's never a point where you do something and it's done.
Yep.
You always need to account for a complete model change, or you start working on the textures and they're like, do you know what? No, don't like that.
Scrap the model.
Just scrap it. Let's just start again. And having a full linear color space, a full, the ability to work non-destructive, the ability to work procedural, the ability to stamp down all of these projections, for texture XYZ or dirt leaks or whatever. It's, yeah, if you've never textured before, I can see why people go straight to the substance.
Yeah.
But bottom line is, if you want to learn how to texture and like really learn how to texture, I would start off using Mari, because it comes with no presets and it forces you to learn how to texture, how to build up layers, get photos, extract masks, and incorporate all of those into the model to get something looking nice.
Yeah. Yeah. Fair enough. Someone says, to be a good texture artist, do you need to know about surface and like shading?
Yeah, so the industry has kind of
It's weird
shifted.
because, like, is it still split at ILM? Like, you don't do your look dev, right?
So at different companies, they do it differently. So, at Framestore, at Weta, the textures and look dev departments are completely separate.
Yeah.
So you would just be painting the color map, the displacement map, lots of different masks and things like that. Whereas at ILM, we are responsible for more of the look dev. There is a look dev department. So very hero assets, you would go down the traditional route of texture artist, and then you have a look dev artist, and you both be working in unison.
Oh yeah. I also wouldn't go
Um,
too down like video specific stuff. By the way, just a heads up. Like
cool.
in general speaking though, yeah. Like don't mention specific things at a company if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm,
Yeah.
mm-hmm.
Yeah. Just in general talking.
So in general, and then you have other companies where people are responsible for, more texture and look dev. So, like in Mari or in Substance or whatever, you can have these materials and you make the materials and then you start painting where the masks are. There are some companies where you can take an asset from textures all the way to final look dev. So I guess it depends. And I would say definitely learn how to look dev as well if you want a texture, because if you know how to look dev, you know what to put in the maps.
Do you feel there should be different disciplines like texture and look dev? Like why isn't it considered like one job? I mean, I'm no look dev artist, so I don't know. Like why does it have to be different?
Because, I mean, I guess it's the same question as um, modeling and texturing. It's not very common to have the most amazing hard surface modeler also be an amazing texture
Yeah.
artist, or these people that study anatomy and they've gone to Florence in Italy to study traditional sculpture,
Yeah.
and they put all of their time in learning anatomy. It's very difficult to do that and also be an amazing texture artist as well. Sure, you have people that are crossing over, but it's the same thing. Look dev artists, they've spent their whole career studying, light and form
Yeah, for
and
sure.
the technical process all behind that. So, I think you can have an understanding, but to truly, work at a high level in film, I think there's always a need to have specialists.
Yeah, for sure.
Because, you can have people that do hard, creature work, and then it comes to them doing hard surface stuff, and all they can use is ZBrush.
Yeah.
There's a term that we have for that. Um, people that just use ZBrush to do hard surface. I'm not saying you can't do it, but the term ZBrush cowboy.
Yeah, I know, I know. Man, do you know I've been doing digidoubles like the last month?
I don't. How have you been finding that?
Interesting. It's the first characters I've made in my life. Like ever in CG. It's kind of interesting.
Do they have any hard surface things on them?
No. I know I'm actually doing like
Ah,
just the body, so not the costume or anything, like just the body itself. So I've been doing a lot of ZBrush stuff, which is kind of interesting.
okay.